This morning, that rare moment of emotion on the floor of the Texas House of Representatives.
And y'all don't understand that. Y'all don't live in a skin.
State Rep Armando Wally on what led to this exchange and what he worries that House Bill 4 will do to our state. Republicans in Congress call a truce, finally elect a new speaker. But how unified is the party with a potential government shutdown 3 weeks away? Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez with us from Washington. 9 days left in the special legislative session. Are school vouchers dead? State Rep Drew Darby, one of the rural Republicans, on the program. And the tough-talking Texas Democrat hoping to take on Ted Cruz next year.
This Canadian guy is going to get his kicked by me, I promise you.
State Senator Roland Gutierrez unplugged on Yolitics. You'll get a preview.
Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley starts now.
Good Sunday morning, lots to get to, but let's begin with the headlines right now. More fallout on the far right over the Defend Texas Liberty PAC. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick really trying to separate himself from this situation. That PAC gave Patrick a $3 million donation just before the Paxton impeachment trial. Patrick defended it at first, but when it was revealed that Defend Texas Liberty met with a white supremacist recently, Patrick took that $3 million and bought bonds from the Israeli government. Texas Republicans moving ahead with their plan to build a longer barrier along the border with Mexico. The state is already spending $1.5 billion to build a 40-mile barrier. This new bill is another $1.5 billion. It would extend the wall for another 50 miles, so $3 billion, 90 miles in all. Democrats said nothing in the bill, though, shows that any barrier will be effective to slow migration. And don't forget, early voting is underway right now on the constitutional amendments. One of the biggest is locking in those property tax cuts, but there are 14 amendments in all. A brand new episode of Yolitics out right now explaining each one of them. Early voting ends this Friday. Election Day is next Tuesday. We begin this morning, though, in Austin with one of the most controversial bills in the state legislature. School vouchers. They appear dead in the special legislative session. Rural Republicans are not budging. This morning, one of them is on the program with us. State Rep Drew Darby, a Republican from San Angelo who chairs the House Redistricting Committee. Mr. Chairman, welcome to the program here. Basic question off the top. Many people are wondering, do House Republicans have enough votes to pass school vouchers?
Well, that's yet to be determined, but I certainly think not. I think there's a large number of Republican representatives and Democratic representatives that want to see our public schools funded fully.
The House did reach a compromise. House Republicans did, a bill that would allow limited vouchers, but the bill also calls for more money to the basic allotment to public education and a pay raise for teachers. Did that have any support among rural Republicans?
Well, we've not had the opportunity to discuss that. It was only put forth and filed last week by Chairman Buckley. I will tell you that after my discussions with a lot of House members, we clearly support more funding, and not just the funding that was contained in the original budget passed during the session, but an increased funding level. You know, it's been our position that we have never, this state has never properly funded education. When you look at total per student funding, we rank 43rd in the country. Only a few at bottom below us. And so I find that objectionable. And so I also find objectionable any talk of taking public dollars out of public schools and supporting private or parochial schools that don't have the same accountability, don't have the same testing, don't have the same transparency, and quite frankly, don't have open enrollment policies. And I find that objectionable. Now, is there a threshold that all of us might consider that? Let's just say that we properly fund our schools at an appropriate level. Then we implement some of these policy changes that are contained in HB1. Then would the House consider a measured ESA program that has limited a number of folks involved in that has a sunset requirement, has an evaluation process, has a testing requirement, have open enrollment policies, all of those things that public schools have to deal with on a daily basis. If those same type of requirements are incumbent upon private or parochial schools, then maybe we can engage in a discussion at that moment. They have successfully tried to market this as school choice. Who would be against school choice? It's a nomenclature that everybody can support. Everybody supports the ability of parents to decide where their kids go to school. But the reality is, we have that choice now. In San Angelo, for example, we can go to a public school, a great public school. We can go to great private schools. There's a wonderful parochial school, and we have a public charter school, and we have a large homeschool community. That is choice. You can do all of that in communities like San Angelo. But what we're really talking about is the dollars that would allow a flow, if you will, into private or parochial schools without the same accountability, without the same hurdles that you have to jump over. And in my opinion, it's just wrong. It's just wrong to take money out of what I consider the primary obligation of the legislature, and that is to fund a free and efficient public free school system.
Mr. Chairman, we appreciate the time and the explanation. Thank you, sir.
Jason, thank you for being here.
Y'all don't understand the that y'all do hurts our community. It hurts us personally, bro.
Could you just let us
it hurts us.
Just let us debate it.
It hurts us to our core.
Now to that rare heated exchange on the House floor. It happened late Wednesday night. State Rep Armando Wally there expressing what many House Democrats were feeling about House Bill 4. This one lets local police pick up people they suspect are in this country illegally, then drive them to the border and ask them to step across. Frustrated Democrats unable to stop that bill or even propose any of the amendments they wanted. Hours after that video, we called Representative Wally about it. He is a Democrat who represents the north side of Houston.
Representative, I think what really stood out to us is that we saw a human side of a lawmaker there, and we don't see that a lot on the House floor. We hear impassioned speeches from the back microphone, maybe from the front microphone, but we don't see what people are like on a human level, and that's what this was.
Look, I didn't know somebody was filming, so let me just acknowledge that. I had no idea that a camera was on the encounter. It was a raw. It was an encounter that I don't regret because that's how I felt and that's how I feel. But I'm not the only one that feels that way. There are hundreds of thousands of people in this state that love this state, that are proud Americans, but sometimes feel that those that are in power try everything in their power to marginalize communities that look like me. I have a vote too. I'm one of 150 members, and I love the legislature. But I'm not gonna sit by and let folks continue to try to circumvent the process, at the same time substantively attack our communities. I do not regret what was said on the floor, and it was raw, yes. And there was some language that, maybe I wouldn't, my grandmother, my abuelita probably wouldn't appreciate. But I know my late abuelita and my late abuelo would be proud that I stood up for my values because that's what they taught me.
Is this a bill and a law that's going to end up in court?
I anticipate some legal action being taken. One particularly on preempting federal immigration law, particularly on the unlawful entry. I think it's a state jail felony.
How soon would that happen, do you think?
Well, honestly, that it's hard to tell now, only because the legislative process is still working. It just passed the Senate, or just passed the House 3 or 4 o'clock this morning, and so we'll see once it gets over to the Senate and how fast it gets to the governor's desk, and then once we get those timelines, we'll figure out a plan of action after that.
But you think that this is something that would end up in court, though?
I anticipate some legal action on this, absolutely.
Representative, thank you for the time. We appreciate that and the honesty as well, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Coming up next, Congressman Tony Gonzalez opposed Jim Jordan, but voted for Mike Johnson for Speaker of the House and Congress. Gonzalez from D.C. on why he thinks Johnson is different. And a little more than 4 months away from Super Tuesday, State Senator Roland Gutierrez talking tough against Ted Cruz. But how will Gutierrez catch up in this race? Inside Texas Politics, back in a moment.
Welcome back to Inside Texas Politics. The other big political story happening right now is in Washington, D.C. Republicans there in Congress last week finally elected a new Speaker of the House. Congressman Tony Gonzalez opposed Jim Jordan for Speaker, but Gonzalez backed Mike Johnson, who eventually got the gavel. Gonzalez is a Republican who represents a large part of South Texas.
Congressman, welcome back to the program here. The Speaker's first big test comes in just 3 weeks or so when Congress must approve a spending bill or the government will shut down, the federal government. Do you expect that Speaker Johnson's going to reach a deal with President Biden and Democrats, or will the government be shut down?
Jason, it's all smiles in Washington. We finally have a speaker, but this is where some of the real issues come to play. We're days away from a government shutdown. I think we're going to need a little more time. I think you're going to see the House pass more appropriations bills. I don't think I've seen anything from the Senate yet. They certainly have to do their part as well. And then we got to come to the negotiating table. So, but step one is the House passing all of our 12 appropriations bills. I sit on the appropriations committee. We've done a lot of the legwork already, right, and it's exciting to see us finally get these last bills over the finish line from our end.
Congressman, you mentioned all smiles there in D.C. House Republicans, of course, have finally coalesced and united around Mike Johnson from Louisiana for Speaker there. But how united really is the party?
You know what? It's been a tough time. I mean, there's no doubt it's been chaos, to say the least, the last few weeks. But out of adversity comes the possibility to unite folks. And what I really like about Mike Johnson is he focuses on policy. So where some members may want more rhetoric, or maybe some members want less rhetoric, the policy is what unites the Republican Party. Some of this is the open borders, and this is a very real situation here in Texas. I have 2/3 of the Texas-Mexico border. It's the reason why I recently introduced a resolution with Senator Marco Rubio that deports anybody on a visa that promotes Hamas or any other terrorist organization. These threats that we're seeing abroad are very real, but these threats are also here at home, and we have to take them. On face value. So these are some of the things that I think the Speaker understands. We've had many excellent conversations on the border and things we need to secure the border, but we have to get back to work.
You represent 2/3 of the Texas-Mexico border, and I want to ask you about something the Texas House of Representatives just did. It's House Bill 4. They just passed this. It essentially lets local and state police detain individuals they think might be in this country illegally and send them back to the border. I'm curious, as a member of Congress, whether you think it's a good idea for local and state police to be doing this.
I'm torn on this one, Jason, because as a Texan, I know we're at the end of the road. I know we feel very frustrated that our communities are turned upside down because of the sheer number of folks coming over illegally and causing this chaotic environment. At the same time, it's not a sheriff or a deputy's job to be doing the federal government's job. And guess what? We have organizations for that. It's called Customs and Border Protection. And what I'd like to see is Border Patrol agents out of the processing center and back out in the field. And I'll give you a more real example is, in some of my counties are larger than states along the border, and they have 2 deputies to patrol that entire area. And so what I don't want to see is these local law enforcement agencies start focusing on federal issues instead of protecting local citizens inadvertently on there. So I'm of the mindset we need to hold the Biden administration accountable and get them to do the job. I'd also say, recently we advocated for $37 million through federal grants to give to these local sheriffs to help them with that space.
Congressman, we always appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Right now, we are a little more than 4 months away from Super Tuesday. That's when Texas Democrats will decide which of their candidates will go up against Ted Cruz. We are inviting those major candidates to join us on our Politics Political podcast. First up, State Senator Roland Gutierrez from San Antonio.
I expect that they will have a different kind of that Ted Cruz will have a different kind of opponent than he's ever had before. Someone who's not afraid of a fight. Someone that's going to push back on all of the bullshit that he's peddled. Someone that's going to call him on his stuff. This Canadian guy is going to get his ass kicked by me, I promise you. I promise you. He's going to know what being a Texan is. I was born and raised here, and we're going to kick his ass.
Getting through the primary is the challenge.
Yeah.
$630,000 for the, since you've been in the race. That's a tough hill to climb here. You have, what, 5.5 months before Super Tuesday, before you face Colin Allred? How do you compete against that? How do you get the money to get on social media, to get on TV, to get on the radio, to print signs? Because if I'm Allred, I have 4.7 million or whatever he has on hand, more than that. Yeah, 7.9 million on hand,
right.
I believe.
That's right.
He has the ability to do that. You don't.
Listen, we raise money every day. We're putting our message out every day. I full well expect that they'll swamp us in the mailbox. At the end of the day, I don't want to play punditry and I don't want to play demographics on TV, but the fact is, we do have a primary electorate, and Hispanics have performed well. But beyond that, I think that our message is vastly different from Colin's. He's a nice person, but he has this message of, we're going to incrementally change things. We're going to work with these folks. I know he uses the word bipartisanship a lot. It's a nice word if it were real. But our state and our country is on fire right now. We are really, really hurting. We've got people that Colin wants to be bipartisan, we're serving a bipartisanship manner with them. They can't even pick a speaker right now. We don't need to hold hands with these people. We need to beat these folks.
Our entire conversation with Senator Gutierrez is on Politics, plus a brand new episode out this morning explaining what each of the 14 constitutional amendments are all about. Listen to this one before you go vote November the 7th. Politics available to download wherever you get your podcast or watch it anytime if you search Politics on YouTube. When we come back here this morning, rural Republicans appear to have killed school vouchers again. So what is Governor Abbott's next move? Roundtable is ready when we come back.
This is Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley.
All right, time now for Reporters Roundtable to put the headlines in perspective. Matthew Watkins is with us from the Texas Tribune this morning. Bud Kennedy is here from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. And of course, Bernadine Steptoe, political producer at WFAA in Dallas. Matthew, let's start with you. And one of the big priorities the governor had, which was school vouchers. We have, 9 days left in the session. Doesn't look like that's going to pass at all.
Yeah, it does not seem to be going well. No real movement in the House. We have a bill there, priority bill, but the governor has already indicated that he doesn't like that bill. The Senate bill that has already passed has already made its way through. That block of rural Republicans who are opposed to the idea of school vouchers so far has held firm. Not looking great. They need some kind of change of direction in order for this thing to succeed in the next week or so.
But Republicans can at least brag about some of the border bills, immigration bills they got passed.
Well, that's exactly the point. They're passing everything else the governor asked for, and they want him to take that and call it a win and not bring them back again. They're worried he'll bring them back for another special session. They can't agree. The House can't agree. They don't want to go back in rural Texas and say that they passed any kind of vouchers. They can't campaign on that. So, Jason, they just want to go home before they put up the big Christmas tree in the House chamber.
And Bernadine, what are the chances the governor waits until next year to call another special session? Is that going to happen?
Well, you know what, at this point, we don't know. But I think that the governor is going to have to move away from it's my way or no way, because that isn't working. And also the threats, they're just not working for the governor. And I don't think that he wants to continuously call special sessions, and then he doesn't get anything out of it. But I think at this point, everybody is waiting to see. But he's not going to get what he wants in this third special session.
Doesn't sound like it for that topic, at least. But let me ask about the other big political story in Washington, D.C. The Texas Republicans, at least, got behind Mike Johnson as the new Speaker of the House. What did they see in him they didn't see in the other three Republican nominees?
Well, he looks pretty natural. He's a conservative Southern Baptist religious rights lawyer from Shreveport, which is just the other side of the state line, practiced law in Collin County. He's mighty near Texan.
Might near Texan, Bernadine.
Well, and then he doesn't have a lot of enemies. And I think that it boiled down to who the enemies were at the time that the nominee came up for election, or a vote. He's someone that they felt comfortable with, and they were tired. They wanted to move on, and he was the best at that point.
I think being tired probably is a likely factor in what happened up there, Matthew. But I'm curious, Speaker Johnson said his mentor is Jim Jordan. I mean, besides the rhetoric, the politics really aren't that different between the two.
Right, and the question is, what do Texans see in the new speaker? It might be more of what don't they see. He doesn't have a very long legislative history, doesn't have a lot of baggage, which I think maybe helps in this case. When people are so tired, there's not a lot of reasons that they had in that quick period of time to say no to him, which might have helped him more than anything there.
And Bud, the big test is coming up in 3 weeks when he must, figure out a way to keep the government open, if that's what Republicans want to do or not. What do you expect to happen?
Right. Well, a lot of the Republicans of all stripes said that they trust him, that even though they disagree with him politically, they trust him to do the right thing. He's got 3 weeks to keep that trust.
Bernadine?
And I think he's going to have a honeymoon. And they do trust him, they don't distrust him.
Yeah.
So I think that he's going to move forward with something that the others were not able to do.
And we shall see in the next 21 days. Bernadine, Bud, Matthew, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. Thank you for watching as well. We're back next Sunday to take you inside Texas politics and hope you can join us then. Take care.